come after me, call me names, I don't care. Call me what you want, go down that rabbit hole, whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk show family, when you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode, going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this, no.
Today, Erika Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, absolutely shredded Candace Owens on Fox News. Now, she didn't use Candace Owens' name, but it was pretty obvious to pretty much everyone that Owens was the person that she was addressing. Now, as you all probably know by now, Candace Owens has been investigating, the assassination of Charlie Kirk for weeks now. And meanwhile, Tucker Carlson is also weighing in on Charlie Kirk's assassination for the first time. Well, not his assassination per se, but the FBI's official narrative about the assassination. But before we get to all of those details, Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, I have sympathy for both sides because I get what Erika Kirk is saying there. If we were besieged like that, I'd be bothered by it. On the other hand, are we not allowed to talk about the topic at all? So I'm curious where the boundaries are for discussing this issue, because it's not just about her, it's about the country.
It is, I totally agree with you on that. And from what I've gathered, watching Candace's show to kind of figure out what she's trying to say about, her thoughts or her theory about the assassination, she hasn't pointed fingers at too many people specifically other than members of Turning Point USA. That is probably the clearest through line in her episodes, where she feels that Turning Point USA has betrayed Charlie Kirk. Okay.
Yeah. Now she doesn't say Erika though.
No, she hasn't said Erika.
Yeah.
Honestly, she addressed Erika Kirk while appearing on Russell Brand's show, I believe, where she said that, look, why would you? I'm paraphrasing, by the way, and we don't have that video, so please find the video for yourselves, because I don't want to put words in her mouth. But she was essentially saying, look, if you put yourself in the position of CEO of Turning Point USA, that is a difficult thing to do, because now you're a public figure and you're gonna have to deal with things publicly, right? Yeah. I don't know if that's what set Erika Kirk off to the point where she wanted to address this on Fox News, but she addressed it, and so here we are. Now, let's start by watching more of her appearance on Fox News, and then we'll take it from there.
My team are not machines and they're not robots. They are human. We have more death threats on our team and our side than I have ever seen. I have kidnapping threats. I have, you name it, we have it. And my poor team is exhausted. And every time they bring this back up, what are we supposed to do? Relive that trauma all over again? They watched my husband get murdered. I have no idea how I would have reacted if I was there that day. And thank the good Lord that I did not have to see that happen. But my team, they are rocked to the core. So why every single day do they have to be dragged through the mud, analyzed, hyper-analyzed?
So, how do I put this? Look, I don't know what the truth is when it comes to Charlie Kirk's assassination. What I do know is there are certain things that have come out. Like, for instance, we've already talked about the weapon that was allegedly used in the assassination and how that bullet in every case would go through the neck. There'd be an exit wound, but allegedly, there wasn't an exit wound because Charlie Kirk has an amazing, super strong, healthy neck.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
Yeah,
they got to stop saying that.
So they do need to stop saying it, but they are saying that. So that's one thing. There was also that New York Times report about the Egyptian flights that weren't being investigated, or at least there was a call within the FBI to investigate it, and for whatever reason, Kash Patel freaked out about it and didn't want to investigate that. I think that's an issue, and that adds to the distrust the public has toward the FBI and our federal institutions.
I'm developing a stronger opinion on this story as we go.
But here's the other thing. I also don't want to fall down a rabbit hole and be unreasonable and convince myself or delude myself that something far more nefarious is happening than is actually happening. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, it's such a terrible thing to like try to balance this and stay grounded in reality. Because I do want the truth. I really do want the truth.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that it's a terrible thing, because I think it's a great thing. But the rest of society makes us feel like it's terrible. How dare you try to find out what the truth is without smearing people? Because half of the folks say, no, you have to believe my conspiracy theory right now. Don't wait for all the evidence to come in. I'm positive you have to say it. If you don't, you're the bad guy, right? And the other half say, don't you ever talk about it. If you even think about it, it's illegal and terrible and unacceptable. No, my position is, yeah, let's talk about it without jumping to conclusions and assuming the worst in people, etc.
Right.
But if you tell me, no, I don't need any further evidence, the government says it, or even Erika Kirk says it, sorry, that's not good enough. That's not a thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, I also understand her perspective. Look, there's a lot of stuff online about how, she's not grieving properly enough for me. Like,
no, I hate that stuff.
I hate that stuff too.
Yeah.
And
what does that mean? How do you know how to grieve? Has your husband ever been assassinated? So no, I don't accept that at all.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, Tucker Carlson has published a video about the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination. He's talked about Charlie Kirk's assassination before, obviously, but in terms of the sleuthing and the distrust toward the FBI and whether or not the official narrative is to be believed, he never weighed in on that until today. And here's what he has to say about it.
Candace Owens, I've known a long time. I love Candace Owens. Erika Kirk, I've known since she was dating Charlie Kirk, and I love Erika Kirk. And I think these are all really, really decent people. And so it's been my desire for 3 months not to get involved in any of this. And in general, to think to myself, anybody who is earnestly searching for the truth, I'm not gonna criticize. Again, no matter what track they're on. And then the other day, I had like a 3-hour conversation with Theo Vaughn, and it was not about Charlie Kirk or anything related to it, but that topic came up. And I said, in effect, I don't trust the FBI. And that gave some people the impression that I was, accusing them of being involved in Charlie's assassination. And of course, I wasn't. Of course, we shouldn't invent theories to discredit the FBI, but it's not enough to have government officials tell us, well, this is the truth. We have a right, probably an obligation to say, well, can you prove it? And if you can't, I don't have to believe you.
And look, there's some in the audience who are like, why do you care what's happening on the right? Let them eat each other, who cares, right? I do care actually, because think about the official narrative. The official narrative is that Charlie Kirk was gunned down in cold blood by a deranged leftist. And that might be true. But it's weird that Tyler Robinson went from, being a good student, a good kid, living a great life, a conservative family, to suddenly being someone who's so driven by his ideology and his politics that he's gonna gun down someone in cold blood. I don't know, it might be true. But I don't begrudge anyone who questions the narrative, and we should know the truth, right? Because if there's a false narrative being pushed involving a politically motivated assassination that's targeting the left, honestly, like the assassin was a leftist and the narrative is targeting the left, we should want to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, so a bunch of things about Tyler Robinson. I don't know what happened, but there are a couple of things I do know. So first off, if Tyler Robinson doesn't show up at trial, he definitely was not the killer, okay? So that's clear. Same thing I said about Epstein. I said, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he hung himself or if somebody killed him, but if the video camera in the hallway in front of his jail cell is not working, then they killed him, okay? And so it turns out the video camera in front of the cell was not working and the guards were off and his roommate was removed. They definitely killed him. And if you say to me, no, you have to trust the government like a moron, I say, no, that's for you, that's not for me. I actually can think and I could put 2 and 2 together and I don't need the government to spoon feed me horse crap, okay? So number 2 thing that I know, sorry, Anna, did you want to say something?
No, I just wanted you to clarify, but I think you made it clear that you mean if he doesn't show up to trial, because he died of suicide.
Yeah, I mean, I read the other day, somebody said suicide watch. I said, no, he's not on suicide watch, is he? So I looked it up, he's on suicide watch. Oh, come on, guys, come on. No. If he commits suicide, by the way, he's in isolation where they've taken, I've also read into this, a great number of precautions to make sure that no one in that cell can commit suicide. So if somehow magically a sheet is smuggled in and the camera's off and the thing and this and the other thing, and he doesn't show up, no, then it's definitely not him, okay?
Right. Let's also just say, him being on suicide watch doesn't necessarily like prove anything.
That's right, because they do that with guys in isolation pretty regularly. So we don't know yet that part, okay? So number two, another thing I know, are patsies sometimes used to commit a crime and they're egged on by intelligence agents, et cetera? Well, I was just talking to we had a guest on the Revolution the other night who's worked at the State Department and worked with like identifying terrorist groups, et cetera. And I asked him about it. He said, oh yeah, of course, people use patsies all the time, right? It's not that they didn't do it or they don't exist. They find the people who are vulnerable, who might be headed in that direction or have some proclivity.
Yes.
And then they encourage until they do it. And then they go, oh, well, go look at that, golly gee, right?
That does happen, yes.
So did that happen in this case? I have no idea. Has that ever happened before? Or is that some sort of conspiracy theory that's never graced this earth before? No, it's definitely happened before. So is that a possibility? I guess it's a possibility, why not? And so the why not part, Anna, always comes back to, how dare you not trust the official government narrative? And I've lived with that my whole life. If you're on the right, you actually have to deal with that less. On the left and in the middle, we're terrorized by the establishment bullies on our side who are constantly like, oh, you don't believe the official government story? What kind of monster are you? No, I've seen the government lie 2,000 times. No, I don't automatically believe them. They have to prove their case. Wait a minute, are you an American or are you not? In America, we prove our case. We don't just go, he's guilty, he's innocent, just because the government said so.
Yeah, and just going back to Candace for a minute, I also kind of understand her ire toward Turning Point because she knew the truth about Charlie Kirk's ideological evolution in the last few months of his life. And she felt that Turning Point was trying to hide that from the public, which is why she released those the text exchange in which Charlie made it clear that he was being bullied by Zionist donors and that he was mad about it and said it left him with no choice but to leave the Zionist movement, or at least advocating for it.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Yeah, so one of our contributors died under mysterious circumstances a long time ago, Michael Hastings, right? His car blew up and
he hit a tree.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna explain. So it's 4 o'clock in the morning, he's driving out of control here in LA, runs into a tree, and the car explodes, okay? So if someone came to me and said, hey, there was a guy behind Michael on air doing signs, I would have been like, are you crazy? And then they show me the tape and they say, okay, there's the guy doing, I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, what is that? I'm curious, because I don't know what that is, right? If you gave me evidence A, evidence B, et cetera, but it's about our team, I wouldn't go, oh, how dare you? I'd be like, what? I wanna know, right? That's super relevant to know. But whenever you ask questions, we asked Mercedes at the time and they never answered. We asked the government, they never answered. He was driving a Mercedes. Do Mercedes explode upon impact?
Or more importantly, at that time, the big question was whether his electronic system can be controlled remotely, which a lot of vehicles can be, newer vehicles.
And if you don't remember, Michael Hastings also worked at Rolling Stone and he broke the story of how Admiral McChrystal was, going against Obama's official policies and crap talking him, et cetera. And in that particular case, there was literally military guys who had told Michael, we are going to find you and we are going to kill you.
Right.
Okay. So, but the government said, don't you, you conspiracy theorist, how dare you ask a question? Of course, every Mercedes explodes upon impact. So no, I'm done trusting the government. I'm not saying they're always guilty. I'm not saying they're always doing it. No, but I care about evidence.
So finally, let's go to Candace Owens's response to Erika Kirk. First, here she is addressing Kirk's comments about the money she's making.
I just don't get how there's not someone on this very large PR team, as we're seeing these PR campaigns go out, that doesn't go, hey, maybe we should strike that. They made $40 million like 2 nights ago at Mar-a-Lago. Maybe that feels kind of a little bit like let them eat cake-ish. Oh, and we've made more than, separately from Mar-a-Lago, Turning Point USA, since Charlie was killed, just so you guys know this is a fact, has made more than $100 million. That is separate from the $40 million they made at Mar-a-Lago the other night. So since Charlie has died, that organization has taken in $140 million. But gosh darn you people that are making hundreds of dollars every day on YouTube talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination and the BS narrative that is being fed, and the very obvious psychological operation that is being employed to make you accept the BS that they are trying to sell to us.
Look, the fact of the matter is, yeah, Candace Owens is making money on her show talking about this issue, doing her investigation. But to say that Turning Point USA has not used Charlie Kirk's assassination to raise money is insane, because that has been happening. So
yeah, so look, raising money to keep the organization going, and the poor guy just got killed. I get it. I don't mind it. Everybody's got to sustain themselves, etc. And it's not like others don't do it. Like Mark Kelly, after Hegseth says that we're going to court-martial him or whatever, I've gotten about 28 texts from that brother. Okay,
why is he texting you?
No, just constantly like, give me money, give me money, give me money, right?
What a good friend.
Yeah, like I know him, right? Anyways. But, and just because Candace says it doesn't mean it's true, right? And so even though we are also online, I'm going to warn you that just because somebody says something online doesn't mean it's true, right? So I will add a giant if. If it's true that they've gotten $140 million, that's not normal. That's not, hey, oh my God, a lot of people were activated and gave $5 at a time, okay? So that is big money coming in and going attaboy, right? And maybe they're going attaboy because, hey, oh my God, your husband was killed and this was an important organization, and in this time of need, we're here for you. It's entirely possible, right? And there are other possibilities, but it's not small money. That's big money, if it's true.
I personally don't care about the money they're making. I care about the substance of the arguments they're making, right?
No, but here's why the big money is relevant, Anna, because this one is from Charlie Kirk. Charlie said, we have big Jewish donors who want me to support Israel, and they will take their money away if I allow Tucker Carlson to speak again.
Right.
And he said it cost me $2 million that one time when Tucker spoke, etc., and now it might cost me more. So if now all of a sudden, and I don't care about anybody's religion, but whoever has whatever agenda, right, comes in and goes, okay, now that things are back on track, here's your 40 million, here's your this or that, then it becomes relevant.
Yeah, and a story I covered last week had to do with the fact that Turning Point has like their news arm, I guess, and so one of their reporters was at a Defense Department briefing, and she framed a question about Iran in a way that's meant to gin up support for attacking Iran. And I thought that was interesting because it's like straight from the Israel playbook, because Israel, of course, wants the US to go to war with Iran on its behalf.
Yeah, and okay, so here's another thing we know. Do we know that Turning Point USA was largely funded by pro-Israel groups? Yes, how do we know? Because Charlie told us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so that's not a question. If someone says, oh, that's conspiratorial, they're trying to cover things up. Charlie's on tape saying.
And by the way, Charlie was very loud in pushing back against the idea that the US should get dragged into a war with Iran. So that's why,
Yeah, and then Charlie was enormously pro-Israel,
yes,
right?
Yep.
But he had a line, which I was, by the way,
shocked by?
Surprised by, but he surprised us a lot in that last year.
Yeah, he did,
right?
Yeah.
And so give him credit for having a line, and he said, no, I will not support going into war, this, that, and other thing, right? And so if it turns out Turning Point USA has now gone back to being pure 100% pro-Israel propaganda, Is that relevant? Well, of course it's relevant.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? So guys, none of this means that somebody else did it and it wasn't Tyler Robinson, etc. It just means let's keep an open mind, let's see what happens, and asking questions is not illegitimate. Reaching conclusions without evidence is illegitimate.
I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. Now finally, here is Candace Owens addressing Erika Kirk's comment, I'm sorry. Here's Candace addressing Erika Kirk's remarks about her Turning Point USA family.
The thing that is especially absurd about that is trying to almost like, I want to be clear that Turning Point USA is my family. The Charlie Kirk show is my family. You know, like she's just expanding the wings of people that we're not allowed to critique because they're in the family. If you call them fam, you can't critique them, right? I know that this is a now $150 million in the last 3-month organization, and we employ tons of people, but you can't critique the fam. And I hate to say this, but I'm going to be very clear here. This is why there are many people who do not believe that women are equipped to lead companies, because what you are watching here is an unbelievably emotional response that is absent of any logic, okay?
Why you gotta go there though? Like why?
So frustrating. That has nothing to do with anything. What are you doing? All right, anyways, so last couple comments from me is actually from the audience. One of our members on TYT.com wrote in, Don Dada Dragon said, don't forget they cremated the guy who shot at Trump.
Yeah,
And so the reason I read that is because it's such a good point. Because do I know that the guy who shot at Trump hit his ear is some sort of part of a plot? No, I do not know that. But is it strange that they cremated his body right away? Yeah, that's unbelievably strange.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to ask questions about unbelievably strange things, like the camera not working in front of Epstein's cell, like the cremation, like the bullet not going through the neck with that kind of rifle, and 100 other questions. If you tell me I can't ask questions, I'm gonna tell you to shove it.
Yeah.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.